Hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. This is Cass from whatcassread. Wow, it's been a while. I feel like I've been saying that in like literally every video that I have filmed recently. Not recently, because I haven't filmed recently. You know, I had the afternoon off of work because I was taking my mom to the airport. And through various life circumstances, I now own a house and have only one car. So I lived super far away from everything, and my husband and I really have to like coordinate, pick up, drop off, all the things. So I'm the only one with the car right now. And I found myself with an afternoon by myself, no child, no husband, but with the car. What? So I'm here today because I wanted to say hi, and I felt like this would be a really good time to film and just sit down. I have a couple hours by myself before I have to go pick everybody up from daycare and from work. And I've already gone to one bookstore, and I'm sitting outside a new bookstore that I have discovered since the last time I created a video. I discovered a Japanese bookstore. Some of you might know, but I live in Austin, Texas. And so there's a Japanese bookstore in Austin, Texas. And that's where my next book stop is going to be. And so I thought I would film, the small little haul that I got from Half Price Books to just kick off filming again with a small haul. Okay, if you can see, I tried to take everything out of the plastic bag, but there's still going to be some rustling. So I'll start with the two Stephen King books that I got. Now, I have definitely continued on with my reading through Stephen King's catalog. I've accumulated quite a lot of books of his. One of these is Lisey's Story, and I thought I'd pick this up because it was one that I didn't own already, but this one has just been made into like a television miniseries, and so I wanted a chance to pick up the physical copy. I honestly don't know a lot about it, which is kind of my whole take with Stephen King. I really go into like a lot of his stuff not knowing what it is about. I'm just trying to read through his catalog. But it's a woman who lost her husband. There was a place that Scott went, her husband, a place that both terrified and healed him, could eat him alive or give him the ideas he needed in order to live. Now it is Lisey's turn to face Scott's demons. It's her turn to go to this place. I think it's a supernatural type of thing. Why wouldn't it be supernatural? So if you've read Lisey's Story, let me know what you think about that. So I found that at Half Price, and it was in good condition. And then this was actually one of my 5-star reads from last year. I ended up reading 39 books last year. It was an abysmal reading year for me. But I did read this book, which is Billy Summers by Stephen King as well. And this was one of my 5-star reads of last year. It was probably the best Stephen King book that I have read last year. It's not my favorite Stephen King book because it is actually my favorite of all the things that I've read of his so far. So this is still within top 5 for sure. And this is about a retired marksman, and he becomes a killer for hire. And this really, a lot of people, when Billy Summers came out, and the people who have read a lot more King than I have, posted their reviews and stuff, they really said that it felt like Stephen King was returning to his old grungy, grittier style. And I could see that, because I read 2 of his recent books last year. I read The Institute. I really liked The Institute. What was the other one I read? The Outsider. And then I read Billy Summers. And of those 3 of the newer King releases, I would agree that Billy Summers really felt like a callback to his older stuff, and it was just grimy, gritty, good character. I really loved it. That was a 5-star read for sure. And I didn't have a physical copy because I listened to it on audiobook. So I saw it in Half Price Books, had to get the physical copy. Then this author has shown up in a previous haul of mine before, but what you don't know since the last time I posted a video is I have actually gotten into romance novels. Who knew? Who knew? But really, what happened to me last year was I just fell into the slumpiest of slumps, not just in reading, but literally in life. And which is why my reading year was so bad. And I started not watching a lot of booktube videos because I just like felt like I couldn't catch up to all the things and all the releases. And then one day I was like, you know, maybe I want to try reading some of my young adult fantasy books again. And then I realized, oh, you know, I kind of hate like the way that these turn out with their romances, because the romance is actually never really good. And then the idea clicked in my head like, oh, why don't you try reading like an actual romance author? And I started reading fantasy romance. So there's a couple that I have now read and have really enjoyed. But then I was like, a lot of those kind of really straddle the line between fantasy and romance. And I wanted more romance. And then I just like dove in, and I have found myself really enjoying a lot of romance books recently, which is just bizarre to say, for me personally, because I just never thought, which goes to show that you really shouldn't put labels on your reading anyway, because like who's to say what you're going to enjoy one day and then not the next. But I definitely have to shout out one booktuber in particular, who's a romance booktuber. Her name is Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. She literally has no idea that I have a channel, literally has no idea that I exist, but it was her channel that single-handedly convinced me like, should I read romance? The way that she talks about romance books, like, totally had me invested and totally had me just believing in love and believing in these stories. So, she is like definitely who I have to thank as far as my romance reading journey and how that started. So, okay, now that's how I got into romance. Crystal's Bookish Life, still watch literally everything that she comes out with as soon as she posts. But then that morphed into me following another romance booktuber. Her name is Jess from Peace Love Books. She has gotten me into like, I don't know, there's just so, I'm gonna have to do like a romance booktube journey breakdown or something. Anyway, my journey with Peace Love Books is that she is really into romantic suspense right now. And I read at least one romantic suspense, and that was really successful for me. And so she's actually spending her year picking up different like Nora Roberts books. The way that I feel like I'm kind of like reading a lot of Stephen King's backlog, she's reading a lot of Nora Roberts' backlog because of her older stuff being a lot more romantic suspense. So this is a book that a lot of people who enjoy Nora Roberts and enjoy romantic suspense, they say this is a good one to give a go. So this is The Obsession by Nora Roberts, the queen of romance herself. I literally couldn't tell you a thing about it, other than it's got a suspenseful plot line. Whoa. All right, it's getting really hot in the car, and I want to make the most of the time that I have left before I have to pick everybody up. So I'm gonna go inside the Japanese bookstore and pick some stuff out. Okay, back in the car. I did pick up a couple of things. They were really cleared out of notebooks, which is what I usually go in there for. I completely forgot that it's Friday of spring break in Austin. So this place is always packed, but it was particularly packed. And I'm going to go pick up my son from daycare. So high tech over here. So I just wanted to show you all the fantasy books that I bought this year, because I haven't done a book haul in who knows how long. So these are just the fantasy books that I bought this year. I've actually bought quite a bit of romance books. So you see a bunch of mass market paperbacks up there. I've gone ham on a bunch of the mass market paperbacks for romance. So I think that's going to be like a separate haul if you want to see that one. Lots of historical romance paperbacks, because the other kinds of romance books that I'm reading are all on like Kindle Unlimited, which is super great because then I don't have to buy a physical book just to read it. So a lot of the historical romance books that I want to read are all in like mass market paperback. So I end up just buying them through Book Outlet, thrift books. I was scouring the shelves at Half Price Books earlier today, and that's kind of what I was looking for while I was there too, but I didn't really see any that I wanted. So yeah, I think that's just gonna have to be a completely separate book haul. Okay, we have the kid going upstairs. There's only so much I can do to hold the monster at bay. So we have to make this quick. So I am once again a part of the Catch Up Book Club, which is on Becca and the Books channel. And we are going to be reading through the First Law world. And of course, we have started with the First Law trilogy written by Joe Abercrombie. I finished The Realm of the Elderlings last year with the group. It was a very emotional time. If you haven't seen the live show with our reactions to it, I can go ahead and link that below. But it was like a 4-year journey for me reading those books, and I can't even talk about it. I'm still a little bit scarred by it. But we took a little bit of a break over the holidays, and then we came back in the new year with our brand new read along. And so it's going to be the First Law world. Some of you may know that I already have a copy of the first trilogy, but I hate those covers. I literally hate them. And I decided to place an order with Book Depository, and I ordered the Gallant copies, the UK versions, so sorry about my son again, of the First Law trilogy, and the standalones that come immediately after that. Because what we're going to do for Catch Up Book Club, if you don't already know, these read-alongs are like 2 years long. So for this year, we are going to try and work our way through the first 6 books in this world. And then next year, we're going to pick up with the remaining standalone and then the newest trilogy that Joe Abercrombie has out. So the First Law trilogy, I've already read the first book of this. And once I found out that First Law was going to be what we were doing next for the Catch Up Book Club, I paused. And so I haven't continued on with the rest of the books. But we just did the live show for the first book, which is The Blade itself. We were talking about it in the live show. It's it kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Westerosi style, you know, very much based off of England. So the world itself is split up into the north. Then you have Anglan, which is the primary country. And then we've got kind of like the metropolis, but not like a real city, but you know what I mean, like the city area where a lot of our characters spend time in. And then there's the south, and then there's some other lands across the sea. And we follow along a cast of characters. There's Giselle Dan Luther, who is this very, very spoiled young lordling who is trying to win a fencing tournament. We have Logan Ninefingers, who used to be this leader of this group in the north with a group of Northmen, but he's kind of considered a barbarian. And he ends up getting sent to meet up with a magus named Baez. And so we follow along with their storyline, and then we also follow along with Inquisitor Glocta, and he has some run-ins with Giselle Dan Luther as well, and he is a man who used to be kind of this spoiled lordling, kind of in the same place that Giselle is, but he has been tortured and disfigured because of his torture, and so now he is a torturer himself. So we follow a really, really interesting cast of characters. This first book is a lot of setup, but if you're Robin Hobb fans, if you're fans of the stuff that I end up reading, this book shouldn't be an issue for many of you, and I ended up giving this 5 out of 5 stars. So then the second book in that trilogy that we will begin this month in April, and then the live show for this is supposed to be in May. This is Before They Are Hanged, which is the second book in the First Law trilogy. And then the third book in the First Law trilogy is The Last Argument of Kings, or just Last Argument of Kings. And then it goes into a set of standalones. So that's what I also ordered when I placed this Book Depository order, because I just figured since I was going to be ordering from, you know, across the pond, I wanted to get as many of the standalones as I could. So this was like something that I actually purchased in January for my birthday month. Okay, so I think the first of the standalones is called Best Served Cold. Then we have The Heroes, and I'm already really excited about this because one of the characters that we've already met in the first book is supposed to be like the main protagonist here. So I'm pretty excited about that one. And then the last book that we're going to read this year for the read-along is going to be Red Country. And then there's this collection of short stories, Tales from the World of the First Law. And this doesn't start, like, we're not going to be doing this in the Catch Up Book Club this year, but I decided to buy it since I was placing that order. So this is called Sharp Ends. So this is a collection of short stories, all written by Joe Abercrombie. So that was like the big book depository haul that I did, and the other fantasy books that I have purchased this year. I purchased Hunger of the Gods, written by John Gwynne. This is the second book in the Bloodsworn saga, and I read the first one already. That's actually right behind me. This is The Shadow of the Gods. So this is the very first book in this new series. It's in a whole new Norse-inspired world by John Gwynne. So if you've read some of his past stuff and you've really enjoyed it, it doesn't take place in that world. So you don't actually have to have any like previous knowledge of the Faithful and the Fallen series, which is like right next to it. So this is the second book in the series, and I started it on audiobook, and I won't be able to continue it in audiobook. I just have to find some time to like sit down with it physically, because the audiobook and I just don't work together. Like, I'm just not able to pay attention. And I've already known that about myself with John Gwynne's books because we follow so many different characters, which is odd because I don't really have an issue with it in many other series, but for some reason I do with this one. So I still have to finish this book, but I got like 25% of the way through it. And then a book that I have already finished, I think this was the first book that I technically finished in March, but I started it in February. And I will probably have to film like wrap-ups for the first 2 months of the year because I've already read 37 books this year. I'm going to smash through last year's number because last year I read 39 for the whole year. Anyway, so this is a new author to me. This is an independently published author. This is Carissa Broadbent, and this book is called The Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is the first book in a duology in a fantasy romance world. Earlier in this vlog / haul, I mentioned that fantasy romance is really what like pushed me into the romance category. And this is an author that I'm pretty much enjoying, like anything that she has put out so far that I've read, because I've read 2 of her books out of 4 that I own, so that'll be the next ones. But this is a really cool concept. It's a world of vampires, but like not the vampires that we're used to. They're not Twilight vampires. They're not Anne Rice vampires. They're just like not vampires that we're used to. But we follow along with the human daughter, the adopted human daughter of a vampire lord. She is basically a second-class citizen, but since she was raised in his household, she is afforded, you know, education and training, and there's this contest that she has been training for her whole life, because the winner of the contest basically gets whatever they want bestowed upon them. It's a gift from the goddess that they are honoring through this tournament and through this contest. It's basically her as a mortal going up against all of these very powerful vampire creatures. And it was really fun. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend Carissa Broadbent for anyone looking to get into fantasy romance, because this was like very much heavy on the fantasy world, cool world building. You know, we've got a cool romantic subplot. And what I think this would just like be categorized as fantasy romance and not just like a YA fantasy or a new adult fantasy is because there actually is like intimate, steamy scenes, penetration on the page, versus like new adult and young adult. They generally fade to black for those types of scenes. So yeah, super fun for this one. And then because I really enjoyed that one so much, I took a chance and ordered the first trilogy that she ever published. So again, she's independently published if you're looking to find an independent author to get on your like booktube TBRs, to get on readathon TBRs. She's a great one. So she ended up writing this whole trilogy, and the last book of the trilogy was just published and just finished. So I just read the first one already. The first one, this is Daughter of No Worlds, and the trilogy is called The War of Lost Hearts. So this is volume 1. Volume 2 is called Children of Fallen Gods. And then volume 3 that just came out is called Mother of Death and Dawn. So I have already read Daughter of No Worlds, and this one follows a young woman who was sold into slavery, and there are 2 magical continents, and the continent that like maybe her ancestry is from is where all the magic wielders are, and the magic wielders have like 2 different like powerful factions of the type of magic that they can use. She is basically escapes from slavery in the first chapter, and she's trying to find her way toward the other magical world to be able to learn how to wield her powers, so that way she can free the slaves, free her friends, and everything that goes along with that. This was also really fun, really good time. It was a really good time. I actually think the whole trilogy is available on Kindle Unlimited, and I think this one's available on Kindle Unlimited too. So if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, and you don't want to purchase like the physical copy, that's where I actually discovered Carissa Broadbent, was through the Kindle Unlimited subscription. So because I enjoyed her so much, then I just went ahead and ordered physical copies because they were so great. But I did also give this one 4 out of 5 stars. And yeah, I think that's it. Those are all the fantasy books that I've purchased this year. And if you want to see, I mean, it's not going to be as like in-depth and in detail as this fantasy one is, but if you want to see those romance novels that I purchased, feel free to let me know, because I went, like I said, I went a little ham, and that would have to be its own video. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you've been buying. Please let me know what you've been up to. It's just been so long since I've been able to film a video, but I've got a new place, I've got a new house, got some new bookshelves, and I've been feeling really good about my reading this year. Much different than last year. I'm just in a much better headspace as far as reading goes. And so I want to come back to BookTube and share that with you all. Oh, baby's crying. So that seems like a really good time to end this video. I guess you all know how these videos end. Talk to you later. Bye.